Back.
Hard work, steely resolve, and sure grittiness.
It starts with an attitude. We need swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there. Doesn't matter. Keep your swagger. Keep your swagger.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 5-Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're your hosts today, TJ, Zach, and Raj.
Hey.
So today we got our fourth part of the divisional preview. We're checking out the Central. We're doing the second part of the Central. The last week we covered Dallas, Winnipeg, Chicago, and Utah, and then the Metro the week before that. Today we are continuing that deep dive into the Central Division. We're covering the remaining four teams in the Central: the Avalanche, the Predators, the Blues, and the Wild. Plans to deep dive these teams, their changes in the offseason, talk top targets, streamers, breakout busts, potential sleeper picks if they're there, dig into the goaltending situations of each team. Maybe we'll talk a little point projections and projected lineups and things like that. Avs are cap strapped. They're kind of trying to make things work as it goes. Like, we don't know if Landeskog's going to be playing. Nichushkin's a huge question mark. Making it work is going to take some work. Nashville made... Did they, like, Nashville or New Jersey? Who do you guys think made, like, the biggest splash in free agency?
Nashville.
It's got to be Nashville, right?
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, they gave the entire team a new look. They just reemerged and are a real threat to do some damage in the playoffs. And not just make the playoffs, but do some damage in the playoffs. St. Louis didn't do a ton in terms of, like, changing the direction that they're headed. Minnesota is continuing the course, hoping that they can continue getting out of cap hell, what's left over from, like, Parise and Suter and stuff. And today they just signed Brock Faber to 8 times 8.5. So that's going to make things a little more challenging. But today we're going to start off with Colorado.
It's a lot.
They were 50, 25, and 7. They were 8th in the league, 3rd in the division. Goals for, they were 1st in the league. Great. Goals against per game, they were middle of the pack. The power play was 5th in the league. In terms of off nights, I got to get that up. But, the question marks here. Is Nichushkin going to be back? Is Landeskog going to play? Who's going to be their depth past, like, these big guys? Because, they've had a long stretch of being super relevant. And is that catching up to them for the worse? So I don't know. Where are you at, Zach, with the Colorado Avalanche going into next year?
I think there's, a couple of different questions, and it really comes down to health and availability. You got to be wondering about this whole Nichushkin situation. If he doesn't end up being there, that's going to be a big loss. But with everything going on that we don't really need to go over, it's a lot, and I'm worried that he won't really ever play for them again. And then there's always the question of Gabriel Landeskog to me. He had 30 goals through 51 games last year, and then he got hurt, ended up having knee surgery, missed the rest of the year. What can we expect from him? So he always seems to be, he's a good player. He's fantastic while he's on the ice. He gets that top deployment everywhere. But the last 3 seasons in a row, he's played, 54 games or less. But, in those games, he's just under a point per game. So, I mean, it really comes down to, for me, yeah, I am interested in someone like a Landeskog, but you never know what you're going to get. While he's out there, in the beginning of the year, I'm all for it. But I'm also not against maybe drafting a Landeskog, getting those points, and then trying to trade him away. That's kind of what I would do with him.
He's 31. We all know what kind of game he plays. It's a very hard game that seems to have caught up to him. Like this knee injury that he had kept him out all of last year. He hasn't played hockey since they won the cup in 2022. So if he does come back, is he guaranteed a top line spot or even a top 6 spot? Or is he more of a depth player? Do they ease him in? What does his like full season deployment look like kind of on the whole? And that's a risk I'm willing to take like really, really late because he is falling down in every single one of our mock drafts. A lot of them he's not even drafted. So definitely worth a late round flyer. Raj, what are you thinking about this team? What like worries you or is concerning or are you excited about? What do you got on the Avs here?
Well, I mean, the high end of the team's obvious, of course, but to me, it's like there's just so many question marks, like you just said, right? Like, is Landeskog going to play? I 100% don't think Nichushkin's ever going to want to set foot in that locker room again. But, I mean, outside of McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, it's just a lot of maybes for the first time in a while. Like, I don't know. There's a few guys that we're going to talk about for sure, but like Drouin, even Lehkonen, Middlestat, all these guys are maybes. Ross Colton's a maybe. So it's just less like the last kind of few years. Maybe it's been like they've been amazing, right? And there's just been a lot of more certainty there. I'm just outside of the top couple of guys. It's probably a lot of streamers and a lot of maybes.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed about this team. Like their lineup, I mean, when you just had it up there, it's McKinnon, it's Rantanen, and then there's a bunch of like kind of middling guys. Lehkonen's had his, and there's Makar. I can't forget Makar. But, I was thinking about the forwards there. They're
going to have a great year, though.
Yeah, there is like a lot of room for great seasons, for breakouts, for late round value. Nobody's getting late round value on McKinnon. I mean, I think there was two mocks through our, we've had a dozen or more so far. 2 mocks where McKinnon went first overall, even ahead of McDavid. So you're not getting him at value. You're not getting Rantanen at value because they're first round picks and they are going to pay first round dividends. So it's, where do you find this value? And Middlestat is going to be kind of, I mean, if you're asking me, Zach, it sounds like you're the one that brought it up. So maybe I agree with you here. Middlestat's going to be the guy that really makes things move after that first line gets off the ice. And dragging Nikolai Kovalenko and Arturi Lehkonen might not make for the best season for him. But what do you think? Is Middlestat top power play material? Is he somebody that we should really be looking at later in drafts as kind of a just the second half of the draft value there?
I do think that he, don't get me wrong, it's not like you're drafting him towards the top at all. And I don't even know that I honestly see him getting top power play for the sole reason of, he's going to be that second power play center. And that's kind of where I see him. So I do get a ceiling for him on that second power play. However, I do think that, a lot bodes well for him. In the 18 games that he played last year, he had 10 points, 4 goals, 16% shooting percentage, was getting almost 16 minutes time on ice. And I feel like that's only going to go up, in all honesty. That time of ice is going to go up. So he is, in my eyes, the solid second line center. Ross Colton, I personally don't think is in the mix. And I've said it before, but I also like Logan O'Connor to even get a chance on that second line as well. But, with the increased time and his shooting percentage, something that he has shown that he can do, throughout his career, like his career numbers are 11.7, which isn't too shabby. If your career shooting percentage is a double-digit number, I like that. So with more time on ice, Casey Middlestat, I think, could be a breakout player this year. And I think you could see, a breakout of him. I don't know what kind of number I want to put on it, but I'm thinking like between 60 and 65 points.
especially if he's getting that top power play. And all of that is going to kind of, it all kind of trickles down on whether or not Nichushkin comes back. So does it happen that way? I mean, right now, his ADP is like over 200. So you're not taking a risk by taking Casey Middlestat, and there is substantial room for return on investment at 200. That's great. And if he's on the top power play, I mean, it kind of pays for itself at that point. So he might be one of my biggest targets in terms of value on this team. I don't know, Raj, is there anybody else that kind of stands out to you past like McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen? And I guess, like, what's your take on Middlestat here?
Well, I'm, excuse me, choking, and a huge Middlestat fan, actually. Huge is maybe an overstatement, but I am a fan, and I think that pretty much everything Zach said I'm agreeing with. I think he's kind of weird. He's in a situation that's going to be good for him. Nichushkin was a huge chunk of offense that is, I'm pretty certain, gone. But again, Middlestat isn't going to probably be surrounded with the best wingers. Again, depending on, is he going to be with Landeskog? Is Duran going to be great? But yeah, I do feel he's a pretty safe bet. Like late round pick, definitely a streamer once the season starts.
Yeah, there's nothing really to write home about when it comes to like his rate stats. He's shots per 60. He's right around like Rasmus Anderson, Derek Ryan, Oliver Schilling. Like we're talking 409th in the league. So we're really not writing home about any of his rate stats or anything. But what we're buying here is the deployment. And if he is on the top power play, then he's somebody to kind of bookmark in drafts in those first couple weeks of the season. I guarantee you, if he goes undrafted and then game one, he's on top power play with Colorado, he's getting scooped up off the wire. So something Zach says all the time, I'd rather be the guy that has him and has the option to drop him versus the guy that wishes he picked him up. So last round pick, Casey Middlestat, that's one way to go, and I dig it. The power play units, this is like, again, all these question marks. Does Landeskog play? Does Nichushkin play? That's going to play a huge part into how these power plays go. If neither of them play, I think there's room for, well, if neither of, it's hard to say because like Landeskog. I am too, yeah.
Play, and I'm not expecting Nichushkin.
I kind of get the feeling that if Landeskog does play, he's not going to be a huge role player. And that's tough because you look at their lineup and like, where do you fit a guy in the depth and for him not to be a role player? Because it's just insane when you look at the bottom two lines. There's not much room there. So maybe he is a role player. Does he get power play one after taking an entire year off? Or is it somebody like Lehkonen? If Nichushkin's not there, I'd be going Middlestat. I think Drouin is a dark horse for it, but I don't know. I kind of like Middlestat up there, but there is an argument for, Middlestat's kind of a center. He's got to take those face-offs maybe on power play too. Who knows? Let's move into some of these.
Personally, that's why I put him
I guess
the way I did.
I guess we should talk top targets here, but I feel like it's so easy. McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, like the big three. That's your big three for top targets. But who are we looking at past that? Is there anyone worth targeting?
Honestly, I think that Jonathan Drouin is a definite possibility. I mean, is anybody else excited about what could happen there? I mean, he had his best season he's ever had last year with them at 56 points.
That is a good year for him, yeah.
Could that go up? If he's gonna, if Landeskog is not playing, then boom, he's slot into that top six easy.
Yeah. Yeah, he could be. And I mean, I think to me, Devon Taves is a solid defenseman in a deep D league. Like he had 50 points. It's probably going to be about the same.
50 points is great. Yeah, I'm all about that.
Yeah, decent peripherals.
On top of the fact he's giving you some extras on top of it.
Yeah.
For my money, I like Devon Taves there. D dries up so quick. his ADP right now in our mocks is like 161. Right behind him is Druen and Lehkonen at 166. So Nichushkin is getting drafted at 106. I think a lot of people are willing to take that chance. You got to think of it again, because this, like, hockey in some form is a business, right? So this is a guy who's super productive, and if they throw him through all like the treatments and things like that, check all the boxes they need to check, then Nichushkin is going to come back, and you can't just look at that production and just be like, all right, well, what's our reputation going to be? You know? So I don't know. I feel like he could play.
He could. It's just a matter of how pissed everyone's going to be, because all the things that you just said, you could just say again. Don't forget, right? Because
right, yeah,
it's a repeat, and it's not like he picks like December to do this. It's always at a really bad time. Not that there's a good time, but yeah. So I don't know. I just don't see him. If anything, maybe a put him through what he needs to be through, and then trade him, or just let someone else take him. He's good, but I could just see it causing a lot of problems, particularly with McKinnon.
Yeah, I mean, McKinnon is on like salmon, avocado, and fish oil. Like, he takes such good care of himself, and then for somebody to do like legitimately the opposite, right?
Yeah,
I can guarantee like McKinnon he's definitely salty. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, I don't know. I think he'll play. I feel like, again, it is just a business, and they want scores. They don't have them right now, and they're going to want them. So we'll see what happens. We're going to be following the news on all of that. I think we're all pretty much in agreement here that Middlestat has the most to gain in terms of like a breakout candidate or something like that. Druen, I think, is another player who could see like the same kind of improvement. So Zach, we both kind of, I feel like I've picked up on some subtext here that Druen and Middlestat might be your two kind of breakout guys here.
They are. We talked a little bit about Druen, but I do like the fact that he just straight up got a bump already last year from being with Colorado. That's another year under his belt in that system, and now he'll be able to move forward even more. So 56 points in 79 games, I think 60 points is very, very easily done. On top of the fact that we always love this. Like, I know you and I love this. He has 1 year left on that contract. So it's almost like a tryout. You know what I mean? Like, this year is going to be, hey, I'm trying out for a contract right now. I'm either going to get it with Colorado or possibly get traded to another team. But still, I think he's going to ball out. I do. I think everything leads well into it. 18 minutes already, time on ice. You know, I love that. It's just that you want him to shoot more. But
he did get
everybody. It's what we
he got top power play.
I really want him to.
He got top power play last year. 67% of the power play time available in Colorado. So for him to stay on the top power play is a pretty good bet. I'm all for it. 19 power play points last year, 58 point pace. Really big fan. There's plenty of room to build, especially if this is the roster they're working with going into next year. And I think he kind of like fits the mold of a sleeper a little bit. So let's talk about ADP's past. You know, Druen is getting 166, right around Lehkonen. And then some of the other guys going in the, like, you know, you're talking about Matthias Ekholm, Nick Schmaltz, and ADP, Johnny Gaudreau. So as good a chance as you're taking on anybody else in that range. And top power play in Colorado, whoever gets it, I feel like there's three guys who are going to be vying for 2 spots, maybe even 4 guys, like Nichushkin, Landeskog, Middlestat, and Druen. So Druen's got it from last year. He's kind of got the leg up in that regard. Goalie deep dive. Georgiev, man, he's 60 plus starts over the last 2 years. He's been like, last year he didn't have the best like per game numbers, but pure volume, he propelled himself to be kind of a top goalie in a lot of leagues. He was still a top goalie. based purely on volume. So like it depends what you're looking for in your league. If you're looking for quality stats, he might not be your guy. But if you're looking for volume stats, just starts, Georgiev is going to be getting those starts. And it's still a good team, great defense in front of him. And I wonder, like, does Rantanen and McKinnon, do they bring enough firepower to carry a team if that's what needs to happen? I'm not like taking a complete shot on their depth, but I feel like it's definitely not what it was in the last few years. Still a great team, still playoff bound, still a contender, but definitely not where they were when they won the cup. I don't know. What's your guys' take on Georgiev and Justus Annunen?
Justus Annunen?
Justus Annunen.
I think it's Annunen. So in the starts that Annunen had last year, eight out of his 12 starts were quality. He had 0 roast beef sandwiches. I put on here. I know that it's a small sample size, but while he was out there, he looked really good. The fact that he had no really bad starts in 12 started games. He saw 14 games worth of time. I want to see what he could possibly do as far as that backup role, but Georgiev obviously gets big time the lion's share of the starts there, and you don't expect that to change at all. If anything, I would think that it could possibly go up even more, because you don't know if Annunen is going to get those say 33 starts this year. I don't know that I see that happening. I've just personally never super been a fan of Georgiev. Am I the only one? I just haven't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think
no,
he
I'm
has
with
fans, but
yeah, he's serviceable.
He's never blown my skirt up, and most of the time I always feel like he's under 900. Like I feel like a lot of times they win in spite of him instead of because him. So I'm not there for him. You're gonna get the starts, like you are, but if you're going for starts, then I'm looking elsewhere.
yeah, I'd rather probably take. I mean, we're going to talk about him. I mean, if it starts year after, you could probably get Binnington a lot later, and he's going to have better numbers. But I think if, like has already been said, if it's a rate heavy league, then he's not your guy. But if it's a wins,
It's a win
shots
heavy.
on goal kind of league,
Yeah.
then it's great. I mean, on Colorado, he like Georgiev and Prosvetov or whatever were both sub 900 and both over 3 goals against, and Annunen was 2.25 and a 928. So he's probably getting easier starts than Georgiev and playing less, but I mean, his numbers were significantly better than the other two. So he should get more than 14 games this year, I think. So I would keep your eye on him as a streamer and maybe hope for Georgiev to get injured if we can do that.
The one nice thing about Georgiev is he's not costing you an arm and a leg this year. His ADP is in the 90s, early 90s. So if you're looking for starts, but then again, like Raj just said, if you're looking for starts, there's other players that you can go for, other goalies you can go for. Jordan Binnington's going right behind him, and I feel like I'd almost rather have Binnington, even though St. Louis isn't the team.
I like Binnington big time because I think that's great value on him, and I don't think the value being at the same spot for Georgiev.
I feel like Colorado's gobbling up all the goalies too. Like they're making things happen. I think they see the writing on the wall, and like they're signing all these goalies. I forget the guy's name. He was draft eligible last year, but got passed over, and then they drafted him this year. I forget his name, but they drafted a goalie this year. They got Prosvetov, they've got a Noonan. They just re-signed their Trent Miner, I think his name was, one of their goalie prospects or whatever. But that's where I'm at. Their prospect pool's doing pretty good. Oscar Olofsson, Callum Ritchie, Nikolai Kovalenko. Anybody else that I was going to say you guys, but Zach, any guys that you like in their prospect pool?
I put on here Mikhail Gulyayev, that I like him too, but it's definitely Callum Ritchie for me.
There you go. All right.
I
St.
never know
Louis.
if we should put like the guys that are just starting out. Like I put Kovalenko, but he's going to play this year. Like he's going to be on the big team. So,
Yeah. I want to see what he's
I
got.
didn't know if I should put him, but I put him in there anyway.
All right. Let's move on to St. Louis now. And man, I keep doing this. I forget to do all the plugs and stuff. So we can leave the St. Louis Blues graphic up there, but I am going to do the plugs in the middle of the goddamn show. 25 minutes in, Raj, if you're going to be moving it around to the front. But if you guys want to find us, we're on Twitter at FHF Hockey. We are in the Fantasy Hockey Discord as well. And I wanted to remind everyone that we are doing this Dauber Hockey Fantasy Guide giveaway. All you got to do is support the show in some way. I mean, the best way that you can do it is leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That'll get you actually 2 entries into our giveaway. Everything else will give you 1 because I got a lot of people just like giving 5 stars on Spotify. That's great, and thank you for doing so. But it doesn't improve our reach as much as a 5-star on Apple, or subbing to the YouTube, or joining a mock draft. If you want to get in on our slow mock drafts in the Discord, feel free to hop in the Discord and join those mock drafts. That'll get you entered into the giveaway as well. We're doing these 6-hour picks, so there's a lot of there's a lot of people that like can't make a Friday night, for 1 minute. It's like 2 draft picks. So to devote 2 hours on a Friday night it kind of ostracized a lot of people. That's what I'm getting at. So these slow drafts have brought a lot of people in, and I think there's like 4 of them going on right now, and we're just kind of rolling them. There's always one going on, and they're a lot of fun. People are enjoying it. So come on in the Discord if you like, and join these mock drafts and win a friggin' fantasy guide. But you guys are already watching on YouTube if you're doing that. And I don't know, what else am I forgetting? The Patreon, if you want to join a listener league with us this upcoming season. St. Louis, we can get to it now. Record 43, 33, and 6. Decent in the season. They just missed the playoffs. 2.85 goals for per game. They were bottom 10. Middle of the pack goals against. They actually had a negative goal differential. Power play, they were the 8th worst power play with an 18% power play. I do have the off nights for Colorado up here. They have 32, which is actually one of the better in the league, right there with Dallas. We were talking about them last week as being somebody that you can really like a third of your games are going to be on off nights. Winnipeg the same way last week. Colorado's up there with them. St. Louis, not as lucky. They have literally the least amount of off nights. They have 20. So that's tough luck, especially for your goalies. Like that's what I love about, targeting a Hellebuck is you're not going to have, like you still have availability to stream in goalies if you like, but with Bennington, you're not going to have that luck. A quarter of their games on off nights. So big kind of divot in the middle. Question marks surrounding the Blues. Zach, you want to lead this one off?
So I do think that the Blues kind of used to be known for their depth. Like, let's be honest, it was like they had the deepest team ever, and then they lost that big time. I feel like they're getting back to the depth, like they had before with additions like Foxa, Tessier, but they just don't have the same abundance as they used to. I think that the players that they did bring in just don't mask the deficiencies that they do have. They lost Torrey Krug, which I think is huge. He's out and going to be out for likely the upcoming season. So if he ends up needing that surgery, I think that that's going to be one of the biggest storylines for them because he is their defense.
I'm with you, man. Like this power play, I don't know what I'm making out of it. They weren't the best power play, and they are notorious for splitting their power plays. And without Torrey Krug up there, I guess there's room for us to kind of pontificate about who is going to be their top power play guy. What do you think? Is it Perunovic?
They have 2 second power play units. They don't have 2 first. They have 2 second power play.
There you go. So who do you got on the top power play? I mean, Justin Falk kind of seems like he would be the guy, but Perunovic is somebody that is pretty highly touted and could be the up and comer. Maybe they see this as a year for building and letting him kind of take the chance like that. What do you got?
I agree with you somewhat. So I personally do think that Falk is going to be up there because he is that veteran. He's been on the team. He's ran the system. He knows how to do it. So I like Falk in that first power play unit, but I do think that Perunovic is going to get a little more share than maybe he had before. I like him looking at that second power play unit. But as far as the top power play, I'm thinking it's, Thomas, Carew, Buchnevich, and Jake Neighbors, I guess I have up there. But yeah, I think it's Falk. For me, it is. And then Perunovic on the number 2. What do you guys think?
Well, I got my nifty power play chart up here, the one that's still not live on the website yet. But Justin Falk, it seems like they traded back and forth, but more definitively, it was Scott Perunovic, especially towards the end of the season. He had 95.3%. It looks like in the last few weeks, 65 to end the season. And it just kind of right here, Justin Falk, it looks like they both had, I don't know, maybe because Perunovic had 0. So I wonder if he was out that game. But this is where it gets interesting because look at this middle of the season, right? So they had pretty much flipped back and forth or split it completely. It wasn't until the last week where actually Justin Falk, his stats kind of stop right here. And that's where Perunovic takes off. So I wonder if that had something to do. I don't know. We'll see. But it looks like Perunovic might be the guy going into next year for all that's worth, because it's not like a ton, because it is St. Louis's power play. Again, 8th worst in the league. So something worth, I root for Falk because I love his bang stats, and it's just for him to get power play points would be all that much more exciting. So part of me wants Perunovic, part of me wants Falk. That's all I really have. Like you said, this is not like a very exciting team. There's a few guys that are worth talking about. But I guess all in all, like who are our top targets? Raj, I want to kick it off with you there.
I don't ever target anyone from St. Louis as a general rule, on purpose. But I mean, Rob Thomas, Kyrou are going to go. Buchnevich is always a worthwhile player. Jake Neighbors. And in most leagues, as boring as it is, I would put Braden Shen in there.
So get this. In terms of ADP, the first one drafted from St. Louis is 85. That's Robert Thomas. And the top 4 are all within 20. So you got Robert Thomas at 85, Kyrou at 92.5, Bennington at 101.2, and Buchnevich at 104. And then after that, you do kind of like fall, and then it's Falk at 181. So you have that meat, right? Like those top guys right there in the 90 to 100 range. But then after that, you're kind of just picking what you want. And I know Falk is getting drafted for his bangs. He's not getting drafted for his like offensive output or anything. But it's just a very interesting team to see them all kind of jumbled up like that.
Yeah, it's interesting in that it's very uninteresting. It's a very uninteresting.
Hey man,
team.
you don't.
I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. Oh, I got him. I've been trying to kill that fly for fucking 45 minutes, dude. Finally killed the fly. I got him.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Fucking bitch. Bitch. Gotcha. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, TJ.
It's very exciting.
Where like I love Pavel Buchnevich, so you don't ever have to talk me into having him.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll take it.
He's great.
Got him. Oh, his guts are all smeared all over my screen. Whatever.
Ew.
It's what you get. It's what you get. My wife and my son go into the garage and they just leave the door wide the fuck open. And our recycling bin is like right next to our garage door. So anytime they open the door, 56 flies just fly in. And I'm like, I hate flies more than most of things. And
Yeah,
Man, it drives me crazy. I must have killed 24 flies today. No lies. It's disgusting, and I hate it.
horrible.
Anyway.
Don't tell me these things. I
Yeah.
don't want to.
Sorry. St. Louis. There you go. I don't know. Are there depth players in St. Louis we should be looking at? Are you guys excited? Like, not excited, but like, like perimeter guys or like kind of peripheral studs that you're looking at. Raj, I know you're big on bangers. Who do you got here in St. Louis?
I mean, I just don't like St. Louis. Like, that's about it. Yeah, I don't know. I in terms of hits, there's a few guys, like random guys you can pick up, but I'm just not interested. Pareko, streamer wise, is great. Blocks wise, he's actually quite great. But in terms of like other stuff, I mean, Neighbors actually hits.
And he's slated on the top line. I think there's if there's anybody worth being excited about as a streamer, it might be Neighbors.
Neighbors.
Yeah. And I mean, there's always Sammy Blais. There's always Sammy Blais if we're looking for bangs.
Is he still on the team?
He's back, baby.
Okay. Look at him go. I didn't see him on their lineup, so
I think
that's what it is. Yeah, I think who was it, Raj or Zach that wrote Jake Neighbors as the
team? He's the UFA.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see him there. Jake Neighbors as a breakout candidate.
Is he on like the Islanders or something?
Sammy Blais? I don't know.
I'm on Yahoo right now. He's under St. Louis.
He ain't on St. Louis. I'm pretty darn sure he ain't on St. Louis.
We'll see. Anyway, who put Jake Neighbors as a breakout candidate? Because I think that's spot the fuck on. Who was it that wrote that one?
Whoever did, they sound
spot
like a
on.
pretty smart person.
All right, it was you. Go on. Have at it.
So to me, 27 goals say that he broke out last year. But I do think that he can add to that a little bit. I love the fact that you talked about it. He is at that top spot. There's no one in his way to get him out of a top power play or a top line. And he's going to be playing with Robert Thomas. He's going to be getting a lot more minutes time on ice. Jake Neighbors is, in my opinion, maybe the only person that I can think of that would have a chance at actually, a real legit breakout. So if he can get more than 11 assists, then I'm all about it.
Well, he's not going to get 11 assists playing with Robert Thomas, who gets 11 goals. Like Robert Thomas, he doesn't shoot, he doesn't score, he doesn't hit,
on, Jordan,
he doesn't
Carew,
block.
You got to get some goals.
It's got to be Carew. So, I mean, if it spreads out a little bit more, but I do think the Neighbors and Thomas duo is perfect. Like, there's this symbiotic relationship there. One assist, one scores. It's going to work out really well. I think, if we're talking about these, like, he's exciting because he hits, like, if he shot more, I'd be really, really into him, and I'd almost target him in a draft rather than for him to be a streamer. But 3 years he's been in the league, right? And just over 100 and right around 130 games. And his average shooting percentage is 16.5. But this was his highest at 18.6. Are we worried? Like, he was always billed as kind of a sniper, and for him to be in this range, I'm kind of okay with 18.6. I feel like it's going to go down a little bit, but I don't know. In terms of sustainability, what do you got?
Going to go up too. So
yeah,
if it goes down from that 18.6, and I don't get me wrong, I don't think that that's going to be him every year. But in the 3 years that he has been in the league and has been playing games, it hasn't dipped below 11.3% here. So yeah. I think a regression back to say even a 15% is going to be sussed out by more time on ice. You're telling
Yeah.
me he's not going to get more
Under
than
16 minutes is
42,
brutal.
which he got last year? He's going to get a ton more than that. I
And
think I think it's very feasible that he'll go up to maybe 17 and a half, 18 minutes. That would be great.
It'd be nice for him to get a top power play spot too, which he didn't have last year. So for him to like be playing with guys like Buchnevich and stuff who were chewing up a little closer to like 60%. That's how their power plays go, 60-40. You don't really have like a dominant top unit that's out there for 80% of it. So again, this wasn't really a power play to write home about, but I don't know. Is there anybody that you guys see regressing? Is there anyone worth regressing out of here? I just don't see, there's not a ton of red flags. I mean, yeah, I guess Jake Neighbors' shooting percentage, but outside of that, this is a team who should be primed to repeat next year for all that's worth.
I mean, Rob Thomas had a whack of assists, but that's kind of his thing. So
that's his thing.
He'll probably just do that again.
A whole whack
changing. A whole
whack.
He's just filled with little wonders.
No, I don't think he's unwell. I think he'll do fine. And like I'm looking at all the IPPs right now, like Jordan Carew, right around 80%, Thomas 75, Bolduc. There's not a lot here that screams red flags at all. So I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable with the way that this team looks on paper. Neighbors 18% shooting percentage. His IPP is low, and his primary points are pretty high. So I'm all right with Jake Neighbors in terms of sustainability. But what do you guys think? Is even somebody like Jordan Binnington going to regress? I think there's a ton of games available, so it's going to be hard for him to really kind of dial it back in terms of volume. Raj, what's your take on Binnington there?
I think he's a solid option. I don't know what his ADP is, but I mean,
get it for you now. He was like right around Georgiev, so like 100,
I've
101.
him at least in one league.
For sure. Like the wins will be a little bit less, but I mean, he had 15 points better save percentage on Georgiev, right? So he's going to get some less wins, but his rate stats are significantly better, and that's just kind of his numbers. He's kind of a douche, but he's kind of a really solid goalie. And yeah, there's nobody. I don't see Malcolm Subban coming up and taking minutes away from him or anything like that. So
there's Joel Hofer, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be like, pushing. And look at his season. He was like barely above 500 as a goalie, 28, 21, and 5. Quality starts right around 60%. Really bad starts pretty low, actually 14% on the RBS. So I'm a fan. Like the goal saved above average swing from 22-23 from negative 18 to positive 17 is a little bit worrisome. But even if he evens out there, I mean, we're looking at 25, 26 wins and still right around 60 starts. I'm a big fan of Binnington as kind of like a late round, maybe like mid to late volume guy. One of the last volume guys that's going to be left.
For sure.
And you got to hope that
keeping an eye on.
They can figure it all out with, they didn't have Krug for most of the year last year. Like, let's just be honest. So,
yeah. Is the team really going to take that much of a step back,
Yeah, I don't know about that. So I'm hoping, that over 3 goals against per game changes a little bit. Because in all honesty, it's not like a lot of offense on the defensive side of the puck, but they got some good defensemen. Ryan Suter is definitely a little old, but I mean, Periaco is a good defenseman. Nick
it's like serviceable all around. It's just serviceable. I mean? The whole team serviceable, top to bottom.
That's the whole thing. They need to play St. Louis hockey, which is very similar to Islanders hockey. You know what I mean? They need to play that team defense
and team offense too. It's a scoring by committee kind of lineup. And one thing, like one of the next teams we're going to be talking about, Nashville, might be one of the only teams that got better in the Central Division. Dallas, I think there's an argument for that, but I don't think Colorado got better. I don't think Minnesota got better. So like a lot of their the opponents that they're going to see a lot of shouldn't be too much competition. Nashville's going to fucking stomp them, but it is what it is. This is a team that can be treading water at the very least. Their top prospects this year, they picked Adam Juracek, which had a lot of prospect experts kind of split. He was injured for a long time. That had some folks kind of worried about whether or not he was going to be as high as he was, but he went 16th, so it's good. Like, he was highly touted until that injury, so we'll see if this pans out and pays off in that way. But they're not too barren when it comes to it. Like, Dvorsky is somebody I'm really high on, and Zach, I see you got Snuggerud and Bolduc here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not too bad. Minnesota coming up next. Raj, if you want to throw that one up. Team overview. 39, 34, and 9. They missed the playoffs, middle of the pack. They were 6th in the Central, 21st in goals for per game, and 20th goals against. So, again, nothing too exciting. 10th in the league for power play. And in terms of their off nights rank, they are smack dab in the middle as well, 29. So, we're not, I feel like this is a team has some sneaky value. And, with Brock Faber's new contract, we can almost kind of guarantee that he's going to be a top power play option going into it. Yeah. 8 times 8.5. That's like
Mark got answered.
$500K less than Cale Makar. There we go. All right, boys. So we're going to get into it. The offseason additions, they added guys like Jakub Trenin, Jakub Blauko. I think, didn't they get Pat Maroon? Am I dreaming? But I'm pretty sure they did. They added a lot of bangs. So we'll see what happens with that. I think this is a team that bangs plenty. The projected top targets in terms of our ADP. Let's get into it. Kaprizov is without a doubt going to be number 1. And he is. His ADP is 9.5, kind of right around where I would expect him to go. The second off the board is Matt Boldy at 48. And I want to get your guys' takes on these too, because Boldy had a really, really, really good year. 48. It feels
That's crazy.
Crazy. It feels crazy. But that's where he's consistently been going.
I didn't even have him second on my list. So
Joel Eriksson Ek right behind him. I mean, he's a banger. He scores. It could be in the conversation for top line center. It's between him and Rossi. So we'll see what happens there. The guys over at Daily Faceoff do not coach the team, so we're going to wait to see what happens with the actual team. But something tells me it's going to be Joel Eriksson Ek and not Marco Rossi, like the Daily Faceoff guys think. Work our way down the ADP here. Brock Faber going at 112, and I think we could expect that to go up. And then Matt Zuccarello, who's not super exciting, but he does what he needs to at a right wing position that's inherently thin. Yeah. What do you guys think? Man, I'm fighting my way on how to start this one. Yeah. Streamer candidates. Let's kick it off there, Zach. You want to take her away? Is he muted? He's muted. I can't unmute your mic. I think you chose to mute yourself. That's what the computer's yelling at me now.
Oh, it's because I coughed earlier. And I put it on mute.
We appreciate
make
it.
Better. Okay.
Yeah,
So
who's your streamer candidates here? Yeah.
Is Ryan Hartman, because Ryan Hartman is always my answer for a streamer candidate, whether you're talking about specifically the Minnesota Wild or you're talking about the entire National Hockey League. Ryan Hartman is always the answer. 20 plus goal pace, at least the past 3 seasons, 21 goals, 24 assists last season. He's not always someone that you're going to hold on to for a full season, but he's someone that you always end up picking up and you can't drop for a while because he gets hot and he keeps on scoring goals. So he ends up being a hold for about a week or two, which is the perfect streamer. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. Someone that I can't drop and then I got to, figure it out. You end up dropping Ryan Hartman sooner or later, but he's always good for, 20 goals or more. I
He's
like Hartman big time.
he's always been my like Nick Schmaltz doppelganger when it comes to stats. But the problem here now is like he's getting overshadowed by Zuccarello and Boldy. He's going to wind up in the bottom six unless he can find his way onto a left wing with Eriksson Ek or Zuccarello. Does he fight his way back into the top six? Does he beat out Marcus Johansson, Marcus Foligno? Does he take out one of those Marcuses, the Marci?
I think he's better than both those players, so that's feasible.
I got Marco Rossi. Like, this is a guy, his ADP is 183. So is he a streamer candidate? Maybe. I don't think so. He could very well be a breakout candidate, because if he does get that top line spot like the guys over at Daily Faceoff are thinking, then this turns into a really interesting proposition, because he's going to be playing with Kaprizov. He could be playing with, Zuccarello, the best players on the team. Or do they try and, have Joel Eriksson Ek up there? There's only two players that could be a top line center. And to be honest with you, I think Eriksson Ek is more of like a Couturier kind of, like, really good defensively, really good offensively too. So for me, for my money, Eriksson Ek is your top line center, and Marco Rossi is on that second line with Matt Boldy, which is just as exciting. So I think there's plenty of room for Rossi to pay dividends. His ADP, like I said, 183. End of your draft. This could, for breakout, like, you might as well take the chance, right?
Yeah, I agree. He's
I'm
great.
greedy, and I want the answer to be Marco Rossi. I want him to get the top spot. I do.
I get it.
He'll be good either
like
way. I
him
think
for
even
that.
if he is just second line, I think he'll still be reasonable. And Jake Middleton, actually, in terms of
Bangs.
bangers league,
Bangs.
he's excellent banger.
There's going to be a lot of bangs to go around. With Trennan, Joel Eriksson Ek is a banger too, and their defensive core with like Middleton right there, and even Bogo, he can throw it around a little bit.
Bogosian?
Not to like a
Absolutely.
huge extent, but he'll throw it around. Regression candidates, man, I don't know. I got nobody here that's like, outperforming what my expectations were last year in terms of any of the rate stats, anything under the hood. Nothing really stands out as like a, trigger point for me. And this is, I'm not going to say that like everybody's going to be awesome, but I also don't see anybody like taking a huge nosedive in terms of any particular things that are sticking out. But I don't know. Is there anybody sticking out to you guys here?
I mean,
They look
not personally
way too
for me.
responsibly on point.
In all
Just like
honesty,
Minnesota
we
is.
all know Kaprizov he's a first rounder. He's gonna play like a first rounder. G did fantastic. I think he's gonna do fantastic again. He's a legit, NHLer. And then there's Zuccarello. Zuccarello has proven over the past 3 seasons that not only is he pretty available, but he consistently performs. He and Kaprizov play really well together. So I don't see regression happening there. If it would have, it would have happened last year when he had a 6.9 shooting percentage and he still had 63 points.
It's going to be an interesting year for this team. And Zach, you can turn your headphones off now. If there is going to be a regression candidate, it might be Ryan Hartman for me.
Hey.
If he winds up outside the top 6, I think, a lot of those stats start to evaporate, and it's not going to be worth. He's not going to be worth the paper it's printed on. So we had a question here coming in from the YouTube as we move into our goalies. WMW Animations wants to know, does Gus play better? 903 at 5-on-5 last year, and goals saved above average -7. So he was not playing well. High danger shots against. He had more than Fleury. High danger save percentage 800. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to read into the stats here. There's not much that there's nothing here that builds confidence. One thing that stands out a little bit, I guess, is that the average shot distance for Philip Gustafsson was a little close. I'm not going to write that in stone or anything in terms of like, is he 100% going to play any better? It's just, when average shot distance for Wallstedt is 39 feet and then Fleury is almost 38 and then Gustafsson is 36. If they're getting closer, then you don't really, I don't know. I wonder if the team is like getting confident in it and letting things go a little bit more. I think on Gustafsson, and do you guys remember like a couple years ago, he was kind of the 0G hero where
He was awesome.
you picked him up and then he was awesome. And that's where we kind of built our expectations around, and I feel like everything is sort of leveling out, and it feels like a disappointment because he was so great and then he wasn't. And that's kind of what happens, There's year-to-year variance when it comes to these kind of things, especially in goal. All right, my screen just turned off. Why does this keep happening? This is the weirdest thing.
Because nobody wants to hear about Minnesota. That's
We
why.
still hear you. I like Minnesota,
I'm here, yeah.
man.
I like Minnesota. Their jerseys are dope. I wish they were a great team, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like their jerseys.
I
The
was
jerseys-
going to say that earlier. I want a Minnesota jersey.
Yeah, me too.
Some of them are great, yeah.
But
But I mean,
want,
if you
like,
look at
a
Gustafsson's
cheap
numbers,
jersey.
Gustafsson's numbers were like all the goalies who played for the team had the same numbers last year. So that was just the team. Like no goalie played any better or worse in really any way on that team. So they're just so painfully Minnesota all the time.
Well, their goals against was not great. So, I mean,
Yeah. And that's one thing is like even strength, Gustafsson was playing pretty good. It's just he kind of got chewed up on the penalty kill. When, 8.04 goals against average. Really bad on the penalty kill. So like, they just need to tighten that up. And I think Spurgeon was hurt a lot last year. Am I remembering that correctly? So I wonder if him coming
He's hurt a lot
back
every
is
year.
true enough. Yeah. I wonder if, if we can get a full season out of somebody like Spurgeon, a defensive presence, veteran on the team, somebody everybody kind of feels easier when he's playing. So I'd love to see him come back and bring some stability to this team. But, Minnesota has always kind of been this defensive team, and it just didn't happen that year. Zach, you got anybody that's worth talking about in terms of a sleeper or maybe like a late round value at least?
yeah, absolutely. That's, we talked about him a little bit already, and you guys already know that I love him. It's Matt Zuccarello. He's getting drafted at 143, which I think is awesome value. So you're getting a point per game potential player in the 11th or 12th round. That's fantastic. Like I said earlier, he showed that has real chemistry, has real chemistry with Kaprizov. He's going to get that top line. He's going to get that top power play. I'm expecting another really good year. And like I said earlier, his shooting percentage last year plummeted to 6.9%. Previous years before that, 11-1, 15, 14-9, 15-6, 20%. You know what I mean? It's literally the lowest of his entire career, and he was still almost a point per game player at almost 19 minutes time on ice. He is just someone who is going to get you points all the time. Almost every game he's going to get you a point, and he's someone that you're drafting in double-digit rounds. That's big news.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah,
when right wing thins out pretty quick, so he's somebody you can count on. The problem is he's like right wing only, so you lose a little bit of flexibility. But he is, there's always
a lot of right wings are.
Yeah, fair enough. Kevin's asking, is Zook
a left wing, right wing?
Is Zuck getting too old though? He's 36. We probably could have asked this question last week or last year too, with him being 35, and he just keeps on doing it.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I think he's going to be all right.
Go ask Joe Pavelski about that.
Yeah. In terms of like, am I worried that he's getting too old? I don't think so. This isn't like a run and gun type of offense where he's going to get gassed pretty quickly. It's just, you got to be in the right spot. You let Kaprizov do his thing. I think it's a really comfortable spot for Zuccarello to kind of thrive. And a lot of his game relies on his playmaking. So it's not like he's the one that is doing a bunch of the skating. He just kind of touch and go, right? So he's making the passes. He's letting the puck do all the moving. He doesn't really need to get his feet moving too much. So I got faith in Zuccarello in terms of his longevity, at least with this next year. Here comes the marquee team of this episode, Nashville, right? Last year and this year, so we could talk about their numbers last year, but it kind of means fuck all because they got a huge facelift. Huge facelift. And there's tons to talk about. I mean, Stamkos coming in, Marchessault coming in, Brady Shea coming in, an extension to Saros, and what does that mean for Askarov? There's so much to cover, and I feel like Nashville could, in and of itself, just be its own episode. The record last year, 47-30-5. They were 4th in the Central, 11th in the league. They did make the playoffs, but I think they met up with Edmonton. Am I thinking about last year, or is that this year?
I know they lost to the Canucks.
Okay, there you go. Lost to the Canucks. I think Edmonton was last year.
They took the Canucks to like 6 or 7, though, right?
That was the lowest shots on goal of any series.
I remember,
in the
that was
of the NHL.
wild.
Actually,
that's super crazy.
Unbelievably boring. Yeah.
They were 10th in the league in goals for per game, 13th in the league in goals against, positive goal differential there. Power play was right in the middle, 16th in the league in their off nights rank. We're looking at a bottom quarter team. They have 25 off nights. So right around a quarter of their games are going to be on off nights. Their question marks. Do these moves make them a contender going into this year?
On paper, yes.
Yeah.
I think in practice, yes, too.
We have to see. I mean, we had such high hopes for so many other teams in the past, or at least I have. But that's because I'm a Cancer and I'm decided by my feelings. So, like, sometimes, the New Jersey Devils are going to let you down because you think they made awesome moves and then it doesn't work out. I've seen
but
it happen before.
they didn't make moves like Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. Those are like real, legit.
And Brady Shea,
players.
Don't forget about Brady Shea. He's the
so
last
good.
piece of that puzzle. Like I think that's one of the most unsung pickups.
Yeah,
you didn't even think about Brady Shea.
It's one of those things where just picking him up lets Roman Josi kind of flourish a little bit, lets him do his thing, kind of open up offense. And when you have weapons like Marchessault, Stamkos coming in addition to a Forsberg and I don't want to call Ryan O'Reilly and Gustav Nyquist offensive weapons, but the season that they had last year, I'm curious what they build on this year. I thought they had really good seasons last year, and the Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist line did really well. And man, for Josi to have all of those options, and he's just such a good facilitator. I think Yosi's bound for a fantastic season. Really, really good season.
That Nyquist thing ain't gonna happen again, though, dude.
I don't know. Like, I feel like he did okay. He does kind of have this like.
Go ahead.
I feel like he does kind of have this in terms of volatility, right? Like he would be the biggest regression candidate in terms of believability, right? Like, can he repeat like for anybody else? If we're comparing him to Forsberg or even a Ryan O'Reilly or Marchessault or Stamkos or anything, like Nyquist would obviously be the odd man out, especially when we get to the power plays, and he's probably the guy that takes the hit. Question marks and storylines. I mean, this extension for Saros and what it means for Askarov, and then they went out and got Wedgwood. We talked earlier in the year with Scott Wheeler in the Dynasty series, and he said, "Hey, listen, this is the year Askarov's getting his starts. He's going to be the backup, and they're going to start, the changing of the guard. It's going to be a slow process, but it's going to happen." And then they got Wedgwood. That's brutal.
For 2 years, right?
Yeah.
They signed Wedgwood to a 2-year contract, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not just that. They signed Wedgwood to a 2-year contract and Soros to an 8-year contract. Like, how is that not going to piss off your goalie of the future, quote unquote? You know?
That's right. That's right. I get it. But also there's an argument, and an argument that I can get behind is like, you know, Askarov didn't have the best season with Milwaukee last year. And for him to come up to the NHL and just kind of like do okay, and maybe 2 years is what he needs down there. So 2 years developing in the AHL. Then you come up, you're 2 years as a straight backup. And then you come up as 2 years with a split 50-50, and then 2 years of you as the starter. That is the 8 years of Soros's extension. So it's like there is a plan in place for him, but does he just like is he getting chewed out by his own ego? Like, does he feel like he's bound to be a starter in the next 3 years? And if that's the case, then yes, trading is what needs to happen. So for development wise, like I think this all makes sense. The timeline is there. I mean, Saros is what, 28, 29? And in 8 years, he's going to be 36. Like, we're talking about exactly the Pecorine timeline with Saros. It's identical to me.
I don't know if I see it. So, you know, Saros was a starter when he was what, 25, 26, something like that. With this timeline that you're talking about,
6
Askarov
years.
is going to be 30 years old.
In 6 years? How old is he now?
Oh, in 6 years? Okay, he'll be
Yeah.
28 in 6 years. So
Yeah.
his first year as a starter, you think he's going to be 28?
Well,
Man,
I think
that is behind the 8 ball.
the
does not- it's-
50-50 split.
Makes sense.
The 50-50 split would start when he was 26. And that's just like, you know, that's how I foresee like the argument for him developing. You know, show me what you can do in Milwaukee. Show me that you're, you know, that you deserve. Like, you can't put somebody in the net in the NHL based on pedigree alone. Like, you need to show it. You know,
No, and they made Saros wait. Like, he had to really thoroughly prove himself before they moved on, right?
Yep.
It was a long, slow process with him.
What are you going to do? You're going to get traded to, I can't even come up with like, I don't know. Like, I guess if Nashville needs anything, it's a second line center, and teams that have second line centers available, you know, Zegras, but they already have Lukas Dostal. So like, where is the fit for a second line center? Truly. You want Sean Couturier? We'll take him. We'll take Askarov. We'll give you Couturier. That's fine.
Oh,
But yeah, there's
I would
there's
do that. Yeah. Where do I
plenty more storylines to cover here. Off-season changes being kind of the forefront of all of it. They added Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea, Scott Wedgwood, and then Vinny Hedstrom, Kiefer Bellows, whatever. They have gotten rid of Tyson Barrie, Kevin Lankin, and Kiefer Sherwood, Liam Foodie, Jared Anderson-Dolan, Jason Zucker, Anthony Beauvillier. Who are the top targets on this team? Because there are a ton of them. Let's go to the ADP sheet, shall we? Nashville, first one off the list, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of Nashville Predators getting drafted.
Gotta be Yossi, right? Gotta be.
It is Yossi. He's getting drafted at an ADP of 18, so he's a second-round pick in most 12-team leagues. And then you got Forsberg also in the second round, and not far behind that is Steven Stamkos. And that's where I kind of want, I guess we could have this conversation with everybody on the Nashville Predators, but how do you see Steven Stamkos fitting into this team? And I want specifically to get point projections from you guys.
No idea.
Right. But I'm going to make you give me a number. We're not leaving. We're not getting off this call until I get a number. Last year, 81 points in 79 games, 84-point pace on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, is he going to get the same kind of role? Like his power play share was 79.6. I could see that in Nashville. Tom on ice, 18-14. I could see that in Nashville. I could see this being a very top-heavy team that gives both of their top two lines extended looks, and then the second two lines is the bottom six is kind of just a placeholder for everybody to catch their breath and get back out there. So 84-point pace. I think we're all unanimously going to take the under on 80-84. Is that right? Like Nashville and Tampa, comparing the two, it's where it starts to get interesting, I think, is 75. 75 point pace over under.
Over. I would put Stamkos over 80.
Really? Okay.
Oh yes, 100%.
Yeah. Take her away.
100%.
Let me hear it.
It's Steven Stamkos, dude. Like I just think like everything you just said, he's gonna have all the power play time. It's gonna be a really top heavy team. I think that things were for him were really unsettled in Tampa last year. And I just feel like I do, maybe that's corny or whatever, but I do think that this is going to be a bit of he's going to try to have a huge comeback season, and that's going to put him right back around to where he was last year. So I think
so it's not worrisome that he's not playing with, a Braden Point and a Kucherov,
No, I'm not worried, actually.
It's got to be a little worrisome. Got to be a little worrisome.
It doesn't have to be worrisome. I mean,
they don't have a
Philip
Kucherov on
Forsberg
this
didn't
team.
play with those guys last year, and Steven Stamkos is better than Philip Forsberg. So,
All right, I'm gonna try and sell Zach on this one. So 4 of his last 6 seasons, he's either gotten or paced for 40 goals, which doesn't have a ton to do with your teammates. Yes, there's an argument there for like, okay, but you have X player assisting for you instead of Kucherov or Braden Point, yada, yada, yada. But when I see primary points like this, 4 out of his 6 years have been 40 goal years. Is he going to get 40 assists playing on the Nashville Predators? That's the question. And if he's a 40 goal scorer, the chances of him getting 35 in Nashville are pretty high. Can he get 45 assists in Nashville? If he can, if the answer is yes, then he can be an 80-point guy in Nashville.
Yeah, and I mean, there's going to be a lot of power play goals from Forsberg, so I think he's I think he can. For sure, I think he can.
It's not that you have to totally sell me on these kind of things. I'm rooting for Steven Stamkos to do well. I want to see it be cool. I do. I think it would be cool to see him go there and then be really good. But I've been burned by this exact same thing before. So it is hard for me.
It's hard not to be jaded.
Yes.
I
want to be excited. That's the thing. I want to be excited.
2020-21, he was injured. And that was also the only time he's been below a point per game since 2015 and 16. And 15, 16, 14, 15 were the only times in his entire career outside of his rookie year and that injured year, 2021, that he's been below point per game. Now, Kucherov's, come and go, Braden Point's come and go. I don't know, 2009, he was still a 95-point guy. So for him, yes, he's getting older. This is another guy who's pushing 35. I think there's a lot of just raw talent with him, and getting used to the system and getting used to new players is going to be big for him because he's been in Tampa his entire career, right? And he's gotten really accustomed to these kinds of guys, but this is a point per game player through and through.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at his options, right? The one question that I do have is if daily faceoff is right, which there's definitely room for movement here, but look at the amount of shots between if Stamkos and Marchessault are going to be on the same line.
That's 500 shots between the two of them,
and 40 goals apiece. So I could definitely see Marchessault moving up, or Stamkos possibly even moving to center in a different configuration, right? So there's a lot of questions, but I do think that they, especially just that addition of Marchessault there, that's just, I don't know. I'm super stoked on this team.
But does Stamkos have a chance at getting that top line? Like he'd have to, usurp Forsberg on that one.
I don't know that we're going to see a ton of there's not going to be a huge dip in his time on ice, because I do think they are going to roll those top two lines heavy. It's not going to be like a staggered, top line gets 20 minutes, second line gets 18, third line gets 16, and whatever down the line. I think it's the top two lines get like 19 each. The bottom two lines get like 12 each, and that's it. So like I said, I think the bottom six is literally only out on the ice so the top lines can catch their breath. That's it. I think it's cut and dried. And like the narrative around Stamkos and his projections going into next year is, well, Nashville isn't what Tampa is. Nashville isn't what Nashville was last year either. So I think there's like kind of a flawed argument in that argument. So you're bringing in Marchessault, and I'm not taking swings at you, Zach, or anything, because I also think Stamkos is going to take a step back moving onto this new team. But I do think like maybe the opposite of tempered expectations. Like I think there's room to be excited here. He brings the shots. He brings the goals.
Where is Stamkos getting drafted?
He's getting drafted right after Forsberg. His ADP is 27, so he's a third round pick.
7.
Yeah, getting right around Zach Hyman, Jack Eichel, Alexander Barkov, right behind Jake Gensel, who took his own spot. So
you don't think that that's somewhat of a risk? You always talk about, hey, I don't take risks in the top X rounds. You don't think that that's a risk in the third round, Steven Stamkos right there? I do. The
I don't know. Like
he's
getting drafted right ahead of Zach Hyman and Jack Eichel, who, like, let's talk about Jack Eichel. His last 3 seasons, 89-point pace, 81, 60, 70, 94 in Buffalo. And like, is Jack Eichel, and what Vegas looks like when we get there, is that like no more of a risk? I feel like the third round this year especially has just kind of been yucky. So I find myself taking like a Hellebuck kind of a lot, or going for a D-man like Hedman or Fox, just because I'm not like there's not a huge amount of forwards. But like the other guys that he's getting drafted around, Jason Robertson, Jake Gensel, Zach Hyman, Jack Eichel, Tim Stützle, Braden Point, he does fit into that tier, to that group.
Man, that third round does sound yucky.
It's
Jason Robertson. I want him.
I mean, there's a lot of really good players, but it's just guys that are like, even Jesper Bratt is getting drafted in the third round. So it's like, Stamkos or Jesper Bratt,
I remember when you used to be able to get Jesper Bratt off a free agency, and it was so cool.
The good old days. So in terms of 80 points over under, Zach, are you kind of like starting to think about it there, or are you more of thinking about it in the 75 point over under?
I like the over on 75, and I like the under on 84. When you start bringing 8-0 into the mix, then I start to worry.
All right, so you got him flirting with point per game, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I still think that he's going to do good, because honestly, like I said, I hope that he does. I'm certainly not.
It's easy to hope for him. Yeah. All right, that's that. Stamkos, I got him like right around, if I had to throw a number out right now, not like really digging into the numbers, again, point per game, kind of around that 80 to 82 point range would be comfortable for me. They're top targets, man. Like there's a lot of them, a lot of Nashville Predators going off the board. First one's Yossi, like we said, at 18. Then you got Philip Forsberg, who we can dig into next in terms of sustainability. Stamkos. Behind that is UC Saros, just outside the 4th round in our drafts. And then Marchessault at 88. I love Marchessault for everything he brings. The shots, a little bit of hits, dual winger eligibility, if I remember correctly. And then Ryan O'Reilly down the chart. Jeremy Lauzon for obvious reasons. And then Gustav Nyquist at 156. And Brady Shea, even because, why not? But let's get into Forsberg. This is a guy who a lot like he I feel like he plays the same game every single year. It's just like how many games does he play that game every single year? And we've gotten lucky over the last couple of years. So this is not going to be a conversation about sustainability. It's going to be a conversation about durability. And where do you guys land with him? Like 2 years ago, 69 games. Last year, not the most recent year, 22-23, 50 games. And then 2021, 39, 63, 64, 67, 82, 82, 82. But that goes from 2014-15 to 2016-17. So like this is the first healthy season in a very long time. So he's always had like really good or good point paces. 21-22 when he had 42 goals, 42 assists in 69 games. That was intense. 100-point pace for the guy. 94-point pace most recently. I don't think anybody should question where Philip Forsberg is on the skill scale. Where does he, is he going to play 80 games? That's what we need to know, especially if we're drafting this guy in the third round.
Yeah, like his shooting percentage is always good. His time on ice is always the same. I think it's all going to stay the same, but you just can't predict health. I mean, that's a pretty consistent, like one season out of the last 8 or 7 where he's made it through. So you could either think like, okay, well, what are the chances of him getting injured again? You could think of it that way, or you could think of it like the guy's always fucking injured.
Thinking that these guys aren't going to get injured and spend time on IR, then you're playing a fool's game. They all get injured. It happens all the time. Now, do I expect him, in all honesty, do I expect him to play 82 games again? No, I don't.
It feels like
he didn't even play 70 over that
games?
span,
Yes.
right? He didn't play 70 games over that whole span. So
it feels like the only two options for his season are 65 games or 82. Like there's not really an in between.
Yeah.
So I wonder, is 18 games with him on IR plus and a streamer spot, is that worth, an 80 to 100 point pace? It could be for you. If you have the IR plus, if you need the streamer spot, I think I'm all about it. But, nothing is going to stop him from getting point per game or better other than, not being available for me. So his sustainability, everything checks out for me. The durability, I have big questions about. So
he hits
this is your guy,
a ton as for a forward as well.
I love Forsberg. He's exactly what I look for in a player. He shoots, he hits, he scores goals. Like he's an ideal forward. I just want 82 games of that. 347. Jesus, over 4 a game.
Last year.
Yeah, over 4 a game, which is awesome. I love that. Love it. 141 hits, 46 blocks, 32 power play points. Just fantastic stat line from Philip Forsberg. I'd love to see him get a full season again. Then that's going to be the big question.
Well, that is, it's already come up once, but that's a lot of shooters, man. Like Forsberg, Yossi is a crazy shooter. Stamkos, Marchessault shoots all the time. I mean,
I can't even say
O'Reilly passes all the time, but I mean, it's going to be him just dishing.
O'Reilly and Tommy Novak just out there distributing the puck. Because
leveling the playing field. Just
0 shots.
Breaking the average, yeah. I'd love to say stack against Nashville if you need saves, but there's a lot of scorers too. So how many saves are really you gonna get? Because there's gonna be a lot of games or a lot of goals. I wonder if they wind up leading the leagues in shots for per game. That's like you said, a lot of shooters. They added 500 shots to their second line. Between Stamkos and Marchessault, huge, absolutely huge.
Goals, 82 goals on that line.
Big, yeah. I'm big for this team. That's great for Nashville. Barry Trotz really putting in work this year. Projected power play units. This is where Nyquist kind of gets the shaft. I don't know. Me and Zach, we agree. Power play unit's going to be Stamkos, Marchessault, Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg, and Yossi. Raj, do you have any qualms about it? Do you think Nyquist somehow sneaks onto that top unit?
No. No, I think that's
Who you
that's
kicking
about
off? You know, who you gonna
And
kick off?
now you got Ryan O'Reilly, who is a career like face-off stud, and then you got Stamkos, who has also played a ton of center. I don't know. You have a right-handed option in Stamkos, and I'm looking up Ryan O'Reilly right now because you like to have one guy on one side. Let's see, Ryan O'Reilly. Are you a lefty? He is. So that's so clutch. Like if you have the left circle, you have your one guy. You have the right circle, you have your other guy. Fantastic stuff.
And Stamkos and Marchessault both played the point a lot too. So like that's a great PP. And you can count on, by looking at power play 2 after that, you can count on that being like a 90-10 split for the power play.
Yeah. 54% face-off win percentage. He's never been below 50. I guess in his rookie year, Ryan O'Reilly has. And then you got Stamkos last year. He was 56% on face-offs, took just around 350. Fantastic stuff. That power play is going to be good. It's going to be good.
Really make you feel bad for Luke Evangelista, right?
No, it makes me feel bad for fucking Philip Tomasino for the 5th year in a row. Streamer candidates. I think, like you have here, Zach, Jeremy Lauzon, if you want to take it away, but everybody knows what he's built for.
Yeah. Jeremy Lauzon, 111 blocks and 386 hits.
Led the league. That's my guy.
386.
Yeah, buddy.
That's
he's a banger.
Ridiculous amount. Like
you're not getting points out of him, but he does what he needs to do.
Yeah, he's never going to get you 0 points because he's going to give you a ton of blocks and a ton of hits. So that's why I have him here. It's strictly for the bangs.
Yes, sir. And for a breakout, I'm not big on Tommy Novak, but I agree with what you got here, Zach, because he is he's just lucky to be there. Just happy to be here, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of in the top 6, surrounded by fucking superstars. And, it's insane. So what he gets is line mates. What he gets is deployment by, I guess, omission. There's nobody else to be a second line center. So he's there. Mm-hmm. He's going to be your guy. Yeah. Every single screen has just shut off at one point. So this one's off and has been off. This one turned off and came back on. This one just shut off and came back.
But I like Tommy Novak for the breakout there too. I couldn't agree more. I think it is just a deployment thing. I don't think that Colton Sissons is going to take him over for that second line spot. So yeah, all of a sudden he's going to either play with Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, or Gustav Nyquist. Now I think he's going to play with Gustav Nyquist and somebody else, likely Stamkos. But still, that is awesome for him.
It's going to be an assist-specific breakout.
That's fine. I don't care.
Oh,
I mean, I still think he's going to get some goals, but he had 18 goals last season, 27 assists in 71 games. He has a pretty high shooting percentage, but he's done that for 2 years in a row. He has a career 15.6% shooting percentage. Yeah, I like how this looks for Tommy Novak for the simple fact of deployment. He's not going to get power play 2, but man, that top 6 is nasty, and he's going to be in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And the top 6 is going to be the one getting all the minutes. He was 14 minutes last year. If he is in that top 6, I don't see Ryan O'Reilly taking a bunch of double shifts. So Novak is going to be getting closer to Stamkos Marchessault time on ice than he is to Tommy Novak last year time on ice. So that's great for him. He's not going to be sniffing power play 1, but he is going to be in the top 6, which again should be getting a bulk of the minutes, as lines 3 and 4 are kind of just placeholders until the top 6 can get back out there. He's had stretches of being just like, who the fuck is this guy? You ever see Rick and Morty, where it's that memory worm thing, where it's just you meet somebody and it feels like you've known them your whole life and nobody questions how they got there or anything? Tommy Novak's that guy. He just came out of nowhere and I don't remember ever hearing about him as like a prospect or anything. My guy is 27, and the first time I heard about him was in when he started playing for Nashville. And that's probably, it's my own fault and my lack of research and whatever, but he came out of nowhere for me. And I don't know. I don't buy it. His headshot looks like a police sketch too, which is wild. Yeah. Where was I going?
His middle name as well.
I wanted to say something about this top line. Like, they played so well last year together that I don't know that they break it up. I don't see a ton there for them to there's no reason for them to break that line up. So I don't know that Nyquist plays with Stamkos on line too. So that I just wanted to get that in there. UC Saros probably going to play a lot of games. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think 80-20.
He played a lot of games last year. Yeah, I think he led the league in that. So, yeah, they're going to do just fine. Where was I going next? I think I was going on to their prospects. What do you think? Who's your guys?
So as far as the prospects, obviously I have Yaroslav Halak or Yaroslav Halak. Oh my God,
throwback!
It just came out as soon as I said Yaroslav Askarov, which I think that's I really think that's going down a bad street. Like, I don't know. I don't like what they're doing. I think they should have moved him up sooner than later. This whole Scott Wedgwood thing is a fucking mess. Matt Wood, Joachim Kamel, and then Reed Schaefer. Reed Schaefer is a big fucking guy, dude. He is a BFG for her, for sure.
I want to bring up Taylor Molendick too, 2023 first round pick, and then they got Igor Surin this draft, and Surin's not like anything to write home about offensively, but he is.
I didn't have one here.
He's a bit of a banger, which is nice, and I don't hate it for them. They got a couple other guys that I'm fond of. Zachary LaRue, another banger, kind of mean streak type player. Teddy Stiga was another guy that they got later, the second round pick, who a lot of folks were talking about as a first round pick. So I definitely dig Stiga here. Yeah, I think this is a good team. They're set up well for the future. We'll see what happens with Askarov. I'd love to see him stay. If they can get a second line center out of it, good for them. That's what I'd be aiming for if I'm them. So I don't know. They can go for Morgan Frost. We traded him Nolan Patrick for Ryan Ellis a few years ago. Let's do it again, guys.
They still have cap space too, which is the craziest friggin' thing.
No, that's not possible. How's that possible? Can't be.
They still have cap space.
Yeah. All right. That's it for the Central Division Part 2. Sorry we couldn't get this out earlier. My new contract just came out for work, so I literally spent all weekend reading that word for word twice, writing notes, making calls, just making sure I had everything lined up, so that the company isn't trying to, bonus in the behind.
They're trying to. They're gonna try to. If there's one thing I can guarantee in this world, is that your company is gonna try to screw you over.
Yeah, and I needed to know how it was gonna happen, and I found it. I found a couple ways that they're gonna try, but we'll see. Yeah, overall, pretty good contract. So hopefully hopefully we can see some more money. That'd be great. But like I said, you guys can find us on Twitter at FHF Hockey. You can find us in the Fantasy Hockey Discord. Don't forget about this Dauber Fantasy Guide giveaway. We already got a couple subscribers on this one. So thanks for subscribing to the YouTube, guys. If you guys are into it, we're going to be doing this more often. It's a lot of fun, actually, with all these overlays and pictures and stuff. Raj doing great work over there. Yeah, I think the best way to do it is to get in the Discord and have some fun with us and do some mock drafts. That's one way to get in. And then leave a review on Apple. That'll get you 2 entries. And I know, these guys, especially Kevin, he's in every single mock draft. It's still only going to get you 1 entry, but we'll see. how things play out. So anyway, that's it for us, and we'll catch you later on when we start. What's up next? Are we doing Pacific or are we doing Atlantic? I think Atlantic's last, so we're probably kicking off the Pacific. Is that right?
Sounds good. I don't know.
I think so.
Pacific.
It's going to be
There you
specific.
But that's it for us, guys. So we are saying goodbye, and we love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Hot dogs. All right. I don't know why. Like this always feels like the first time I've ever heard it.
I love it every time.
I'm gonna go get drunk.